Mounting strikes, shifting alliances, and a new supreme leader in Tehran are shaking capitals worldwide.
Iran's leadership named Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader after the death of his father, even as US and Israeli forces continued heavy air and missile strikes across the country on Monday. Oil prices have spiked sharply as the conflict threatens global supplies from the Persian Gulf. US officials are also investigating a deadly strike on an Iranian school. Benjamin Wright reporting.
Across the Gulf region, new missile and drone attacks linked to the Iran war are battering cities, oil hubs, and vital infrastructure.
Officials in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia reported civilian casualties and damage after fresh Iranian drone and missile strikes on residential areas and industrial sites on Monday. A fire at Bahrain's main oil refinery and damage to a desalination plant have raised worries about fuel supplies and drinking water for millions. Chris Anderson reporting.
Israel's campaign against Iran-linked forces is widening, with new strikes reported in Lebanon and beyond.
The Israeli military said it hit targets tied to Iran-backed militants in southern Lebanon and Beirut, including an operation that killed several senior Revolutionary Guard Quds commanders. Lebanese sources reported at least 4 deaths in one hotel strike. Humanitarian agencies and UN officials are warning that the broader conflict is displacing large numbers of civilians. Gary Beck reporting.
This is the latest news headlines.
While waging an intense air war in the Middle East, the United States is also kicking off a major joint military drill with South Korea.
South Korean defense officials say about 18,000 South Korean troops are taking part in the Freedom Shield exercise, which runs through March 19th and focuses on defending against large-scale attacks. U.S. Forces Korea has not publicly released the number of American personnel involved in the drills. Lawrence Keller reporting.
In Washington, questions are growing over the cost, scope, and legal basis of President Trump's expanding war.
Lawmakers are weighing war powers measures that could limit the president's authority, following private briefings where officials laid out their case for continued joint U.S.-Israeli operations. Supporters of the campaign, including key Republican leaders, say Iran is facing the consequences of its actions and back the strikes. Kyle Norris reporting.
Americans are starting to feel the punch from soaring oil prices linked to the Iran conflict, with warnings of broader economic fallout.
Energy analysts say the war has triggered one of the biggest oil disruptions in decades as Persian Gulf producers cut exports and tankers face higher risks. Prices at the pump and for heating fuel are moving higher, raising concerns for lower-income households and small businesses. Jessica Oakley reporting.
And that's the latest news headlines with Alan Edwards.
We all know about the speed of sound, but have you ever thought about the sounds of speeding? If you drive over the speed limit, there are lots of sounds that you might hear. You could hear the sound of your vehicle crashing, the sound of first responders desperately trying to save you. You could even hear the sound of people crying at a funeral. Because if you drive over the speed limit, you could do damage that's beyond repair. One way or another, speeding catches up with you. Paid for by NHTSA.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough. But if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863 or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America together, investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Good evening, California, and good evening, America. It is the Jeff Santos Show. Welcome to it. We are live in California, courtesy of Cumulus KABC. AM 790 in Los Angeles and KSFO AM 810 in San Francisco. We are live for the first time in this configuration at evening time, 7 o'clock Pacific time, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 Central. We are online at the JeffSantosShow.com. You can watch the video. I have my crooked Red Sox cap on. This is the old red, white, and blue. And we are, of course, courtesy of YouTube. Check us out, again, at thejeffsantoshow.com. The phone number to join us tonight is 833-545-5333. We used to have a 415 number, but again, all this production courtesy of our great friends in Boca and Tampa, the fantastic AMP2 TV. We will, of course, be live tomorrow, back 3 to 6 Eastern time, 12 to 3 Pacific. In our normal shows, we do Monday through Friday. But on Tuesday nights, we're live in massive part of California, pretty much the entire state, with the courtesy of KABC, 50,000 watts, and KSFO, also 50,000 watts. Mexican border, Oregon border, east of Reno. It's all there. Again, you can call us at 833-545-5333. Rocky is doing a great job on social media, Robin too. We have tomorrow, by the way, for those who are interested in the world of economics, we are going to be talking to Mr. Krugman, a fantastic former New York Times writer, a great economist, and we're looking forward to talking to Paul Krugman tomorrow in the first hour of the Jeff Santos Show. That's 12 o'clock Pacific time hour. Okay, so we're going to talk to Melissa Tomlinson in a few minutes. She is the fantastic executive director of Badass Teachers. She'll be with us in about 2 minutes or so. We'll take your phone calls again at 833-545-5333. Also, we're going to be doing an interview that we did earlier today. Congressman Jim McGovern, a Democrat of Massachusetts, fantastic friend of the program and really a inspirational Democrat. This is somebody who was a Clinton Democrat, very loyal to the Clintons, both Bill and Hillary Clinton. But he has moved, if you want to call it, more to the progressive side of things. He might have always been there, but you can see it now where he is for Medicare for all, which a lot of people in California want. I know we have a lot of callers that are for this. That's one piece of the puzzle. He's also somebody, though, he concerns himself with the issue of poverty and helping the community. We have a president who is anti-empathy, anti-community. And this is why we need to replace him as soon as possible. Again, in a legal, nonviolent way. And that has to be done through impeachment, maybe the 25th Amendment, incompetent to do his job. Whether or not you can get anybody in the administration to say that, then I don't know. But then you have to start thinking about, okay, what is it going to take? What is it going to take to get, 15 or 16 Republicans once you win the House and Senate? And that's the first mission. That's what we need to talk about tonight. And we're going to open up the phone lines before and after the interview with Mr. McGovern, which is coming up at about 7:30 Pacific time. I want to also, before we bring in Melissa Tomlinson, tell you that we're going to be monitoring the different broadcasts of the Illinois Senate race. Earlier, you can catch this on the JeffSantosShow.com website. Interview with Don Rose, who is a fantastic political consultant who gave us an insight of what the Stratton race is all about. Stratton is now ahead of the congressman, Krishna T. And we're going to be looking at that race tonight and getting the perspectives of both Melissa Tomlinson and others here on the Jeff Santos Show, and tomorrow as well. All right, our next guest is indeed the fantastic executive director of the best name in politics, Badass Teachers. She comes to us from New Jersey, and she joins us via video. It is so great to say good evening, Melissa, and so great to have you on the program. Say hi to your colleagues in California through the NEA and other organizations, and of course your fellow badass teachers. Welcome.
Hey, Jeff, I am excited to be here streaming in California. I haven't been in California for a while, so at least I get to be here virtually.
There you go. Well, you're talking to people up and down the coast, about 30 million of them. So it's important, I think, in this day and age where we're seeing a lot of issues that the Orange Menace in Chief are creating. And, we've talked a little bit about this in the Day Show. Of course, I guess this is 2 for Tuesday, if you think about it. And we are dealing with so much as a nation. The Iran situation, the consequences of gas prices, energy prices, grocery prices, all going up. We're dealing with the ICE situation. We're dealing with, health care being cut back, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, all these things, right? But it all comes down to our families. And who deals with the sons and daughters of the families but Melissa Tomlinson and her colleagues who are teachers. Melissa, for those who are new to the Jeff Santos Show, is teaching 7th, 8th grade in the South Jersey communities. And I just want to start off because I think, again, this is so important for people to hear. When parents go to work, they give their treasure, their offspring to teachers like you, Melissa. But right now, when they're dropping their kids off, and this happened in Minneapolis, they're not sure if their kids are going to get home because of the issue of ICE raids. They're not sure, if they're going to be more terrorism because of what we're doing in Iran. So it is chaos. I can only imagine. Tell me what it's like being a teacher today in 2026. And by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day, we must forget, on this 17th of March, 2026. What say you?
Yeah, happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I actually spent my St. Patrick's Day in the true tradition of the Irish, organizing at a multi-union meeting tonight. So
Very
it's
good.
Definitely well spent. Yeah. It's definitely tough in the classroom these days. Kids, they're aware of what's going on and they're very scared, right? So today,
I can imagine.
we're in percents unit in my 7th grade, and we were talking about the economy, and we're talking about interest rates, and we're talking about the purpose of banks and why they offer to keep your money safe, right? And how interest rates go up and down, and immediately one kid brought up the war. And so this kind of led to like this moment of, okay, we need to have a real discussion. And it's a fine line of how you temper that. And okay, yes, acknowledge that there are some things going out and going on in the global picture
Hmm.
that they're aware of, but you need to also make them feel safe at the same time so that their anxiety levels do not get too high, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
there's always those conversations, but it's not just the idea that the kids might not go home. It's the idea that something may happen on the way home to the parents. We recently had uh, a family taken by ICE and two children left by the side of the road, right? So you heard about that in Minneapolis happening, and
Right.
it's
Of course.
happening in states around the country. And this administration just
They
doesn't
don't care.
even care about adults, children. They do what they want to do, no regard for human life at all. So it's time that we stand up and protect our human rights, whether it be healthcare, access to food, access to housing, access to education. Otherwise, this country is going to be set back not only decades, but centuries. Literally, we're going to go
Oh,
into
no,
a steep decline.
no doubt. I was talking with Jennifer Roberts, who's the former mayor of the great Charlotte, North Carolina. And we got to get her on with you because she understands that she's out there as a former mayor on the streets, protesting against ICE and so forth. And, she gets it. And I was telling her today that, Obama said, the difference between what the situation with Republicans is that they destroy the car that we take out of the ditch, and then they destroy it again and throw it back in the ditch. And we are basically doing cleanup on aisle 9 all the time. Well, now with Trump, you're doing it in aisle 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you're exactly right. How long this is going to take? It's going to take decades at the very least. So we're at a point now where I'm thinking, oh my God, we got to get this guy out of here as soon as possible. Again, in a legal, non-violent, peaceful way. And Melissa, to me, this is got to be part of it. We have an interview with Jim McGovern of Massachusetts, and of course, he is focused on winning back the House and Senate so they can do this. But once they do that, which is still a big if with all the voter suppression and so forth, you're going to end up in a situation where you're going to need 15, 16 Republicans to impeach this individual because you can't continue, in this sort of, I'm in charge and I'm not going to do anything that the Congress says. And so what are you doing? So to me, there should be no, um, ambivalence about the idea that you need to impeach the incumbent president because he is a threat to democracy. And I think the line you tell them, either you Republicans in the Senate are for democracy or you're for dictatorship, one or the other. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And, calls are working right now. So I will say that. And a lot more people are calling the representative. We have calls going out right now, right? The most recent influx of calls going towards the leaders are for or against actually the SAVE Act, right? Making sure
Right.
that that's not passed because we cannot have this voter suppression going on right now because that will completely hamstring any kind of chance that we have of flipping some of these seats.
Right.
But it's also going to take louder voices and more direct. And you say legal, so we were having a discussion today about right to work states versus union states, and
Right.
I was reminding people that even in a right to work state, people can strike, and it's just recently proven when we saw the educators in Arizona go out on strike, when we saw the
That's great.
educators in West Virginia go out on strike. We've had one-day strikes in Minneapolis, most recently with the no shopping, no schools, no work, right? So it's going to take those kind of actions to make sure that we are heard, because there's still some representatives that calls are not having any effect to. But there is a glimmer of hope. So I was speaking with one of my friends in Utah, who's a higher ed professor, and she is very heavily involved in the AFT union out there, and they just got done their legislative session. And so she was telling me that they were quite pleasantly surprised because there was not the usual plethora of anti-trans legislation or anti-union legislation. And there was actually Republicans that were coming forward and partnering with Democrats and saying, listen, I'm going to stop this vote in committee because I just cannot take this absolute extreme division that my party is putting forward. So if this
Good
is
news.
happening in Utah, and Utah is one of the first legislative sessions of the new year, it's a good sign. But that does not mean we cannot stop putting on the pressure.
No doubt about it. I want to open up the phone lines here at 833-545-5333. And Gio and Rob will let me know who we have on the line. Again, 833-545-5333. You can also email me, Jeff with a J, at thejeffsantoshow.com. So the one thing that I think is important here is that we need to give people as much information as possible. And one of the things we can do is tell them to call the switchboard in Capitol Hill at 202-224-3121. If you want to post that up there, Gio and Rob, go ahead on the upper left corner. Again, 202-224-3121 or 202-225-3121. Either one gets you in there, House and Senate. But that's the important stuff. And, the other important stuff is the rallies that are coming together. I hear that Indivisible is now looking at Fridays that could potentially be, strike Fridays and so forth. There's a lot of good things. Of course, it's now just a couple of weeks away on March 28th for the next No Kings rally, which, of course, will be, in my opinion, will be bolstered by what has happened in Tehran and Iran. So all of this, to me, is good news. But you're right. We can't just sort of, well, let's celebrate. We had a good event this week, or you had a bunch of calls that week. Even if you get 9-10 million people, which I think is the new goal, because I think it was 7 million last time. We're trying to go from 9 or 10. Well, then there's going to be the next month, and then the month after that, until you get to November. So, you're right. And you get it because as your executive director of Badass Teachers, which is the best name in politics, you got to get those folks motivated to keep on going. Talk to me about that.
You do. You have to keep getting people out. You cannot burn them out. So it's a fine line of doing too much, right? But not only do you have to get the same people out, you have to make sure you're pulling in new people and then escalating at the same time. So the No Kings rally, March 28th, is also leading into the May Day Strong Coalition. So Indivisible, a lot of the chapters are working with the May Day Strong Coalition for the Day of Action Then, which also happens to be a day without immigrants. So there's the connection with the immigrant community. So there's a lot of conversations about how we can replicate what Minneapolis did with their one-day general strike nationwide for a one-day general strike. So the no shopping, no work, no school, even at a minimum, the first pledge of no shopping should be a no-brainer, easy ask of at least 80% of us at this point in time, right? That should be very easy. And the economic impact, you may think, okay, I'm only one person, but multiply that one person by 80% of the country, right? Everybody who is not a supporter of Trump. So what's his rating at? Like 37% right now. So
yeah, 38%. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine if every person who's against him decides not to shop, the economic impact of that. And then the people that can do the no work and the no school, getting out into the streets, making sure that you're joining whatever protest is going on. And then if you're organized enough to do some type of legal civil disobedience beyond that, whether it be closing down a street, whether it be staging a sit-in, that's the type of escalation we need to see at this point. And we know that we're not done. We know that we're working towards May Day 2028 and making sure that as we do this, more and more people get involved.
There's no doubt. Again, phone number to join us, 833-545-5333 is the phone number to join us if you want to ask some questions. We have until the bottom of the hour with Melissa Tomlinson, Executive Director of the Great Badass Teachers. Talk to me a little bit about how Democrats should be looking at continuing to inform, but also sort of, I think, making the comparison. We're talking earlier about this, both with Congressman McGovern, who's coming up after you, the replay interview. And we ask our audience in California tonight, no calls during the interview because it's on tape, but you can call afterwards at 833-545-5333. That'll end about 7:50 Pacific time. Do you think that Democrats should be showing, and you can do this in numbers of ways, whether it's going to, a food pantry or going to places where, again, kids are being picked up because the parents who are Latino, are too concerned. I mean, show that kind of concern. And that to me is because it's such a contrast with Trump, who doesn't care for anybody. Outside of maybe his immediate family and the billionaires that give him money. That's about it. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, they have to. They have to show that they understand and they at least empathize with what is going on, what the constituents are experiencing. So we know that more people are going to food pantries and searching for food donations right now. We know that there's a lot more tenant organization meetings happening right now as people are struggling to be able to afford the rent and are facing evictions, and more landlords are being not very nice when it comes to trying to
many of them never are
properties. Yeah. We have a great candidate here in New Jersey, Anna Lilia Mejia, who's running for Congress. She was endorsed by NJEA, sent right to NEA for a national endorsement, and they endorsed her almost immediately. And she stands out. She's one who stands for the people. She's been organizing with Working Families Party for years. She was organizing with Popular Democracy Group. She stands out as a candidate who is always in touch with the people, comes from an immigrant background in her family, very down to earth. She's out in the streets talking to people all of the time. You look at her Instagram feed and it's just picture after picture of her with people, not at staged community, showcase events, but just that literal door knocking that we saw with Ocasio. That's what we need. We need somebody who relates to the people, because the people want to feel heard at this point, because the current administration definitely isn't listening to them.
Melissa Tomlinson, is so great to chat with you at night. Again, you can check her out usually Tuesdays at 4 p.m. All the best to you. Thank you for staying up late with us on the East Coast. Appreciate you. And thank you again. And hopefully those gas prices will go down in New Jersey at $3.55 when I filled up today. So going up. And I know those people pump the gas for the citizens there in New Jersey, too. Thanks, Melissa Tomlinson. We'll be right back. It's the Jeff Santos Show.
becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863. Or online at LoneStarTransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show that you are tuned into, coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But we are live in the great state of California, up and down from the Mexican border to the Oregon border, east to Reno, Nevada, through the courtesy of Cumulus Radio and KABC 790 AM in Los Angeles, 50,000 watts. And, of course, in San Francisco, great city by the bay, the fantastic KSFO AM 810. They meet in Santa Barbara. One goes north, one goes south. And that's how we cover about 30 million people or so, we figure. We are going to give you a taped interview we did earlier today, so no phone calls right now. But about 49:50 past, you can start lining up. In fact, you can line up before then at 833-545-5333. That's 833-545-5333. You may figure out the last four numbers spell out my first name, Jeff. That's Jeff. No golfs allowed. And we obviously look forward to talking to you tonight, no matter where you are in the country or in the world. You can give us a shout. You can also email me, Jeff, at thejeffsantoshow.com, keyword the, and we look forward to hearing from you. And again, we are on live Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 Eastern Time, 12 to 3 Pacific Time. All right, without any further ado, we talked to the congressman from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts today, where we're from. And Jim McGovern is really key, I think, in bringing together moderates and progressives. He does it every day. He is for Medicare for all. He is somebody who understands the issues of poverty, and he understands how do we have to end this war and eventually peacefully make sure that Mr. Trump is out of the White House as soon as possible. Here's the interview. This is Congressman Jim McGovern representing Worcester and Central Massachusetts earlier today on the Jeff Santos Show. Back with your calls after this interview. To the show, Congressman, so great to have you on, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be with you.
It's good to be with you. I want to first start off with the issue, because I really do want to get into the issue of poverty, which you have been one of the very few who have talked about this, and it needs to be talked about in a lot of ways, and get more attention. But start off with Iran, because this, of course, goes into the poverty issue. It goes into people can't afford to, pay for the groceries. They can't afford to get the gas. And, and people who make 40 grand a year, they need this. And this is what is happening. Never mind the outrage that we've had, that wouldn't even go to members of Congress like yourself to get the war resolution. It came in after the fact. We're at a point here, at a crisis in this country. Your thoughts about where we are right now on this St. Patrick's Day, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you, in 2026 with this menace in the White House. Your thoughts?
Yeah. This is an illegal, it's a war, it's a reckless war, it's an unnecessary war, and it's a costly war. We have lost service members. We have, many of our brave men and women who serve our country have been wounded, and it's costing us about $1 billion a day. We've already spent close to $23 billion on this reckless, unnecessary war. There's no accountability, and gas prices are going up at a time when people can't afford their groceries. It's just totally screwed up. It's just frustrating because Congress needs to play a greater role in bringing this to an end. Right. And the current leadership is doing everything it can to avoid not only talking about it, but taking action to bring it to an end. And again, I have no confidence that Trump knows what the hell he's doing. We're all alone on this. Our allies have basically said you're on your own. And
right.
And again, we ought to be focused in on the issues of affordability and trying to improve the quality of life for the people of this country. Everything is too damn expensive. I was explaining to somebody before that the group that now is applying more and more for SNAP benefits are working people. People are working full time.
Yes.
And they don't earn enough to be able to afford their groceries and their rent and everything else.
Well, we're talking with Congressman Jim McGovern here, a Democrat from Massachusetts, representing Worcester and more central Massachusetts, although that goes south as well. Let me ask you about the need to rally people around the idea not only of affordability, but accountability of so many people in the White House, from those who just, were allowing people who are protesting peacefully in the streets of Minnesota, to now, the people when Trump would announce that he's going to war, that some people might be killed. I'm like, just the callousness and the accountability of a leader who doesn't show any empathy. And this, to me, is somebody who understands what politics does to bring people together, and he continues to divide. And I think there's a real need here for people who are progressives, independents, Democrats, to say, look, we want something different. And I know that there's not a presidential election, coming up this year, but there are people who can stop this insanity, and running for the House majority and running for the Senate majority can help do that. And of course, Democratic governors too. Talk to me about the differences and how, Democrats need to make this contrast between somebody who really doesn't care and a Democratic Party who does. Your thoughts?
Well, Trump tries to divide because it's a way for him to distract. You know, I mean, he doesn't want you talking about the economy. Sucks. He doesn't want you talking about, the war in Iran, which is costing us $1 billion a day. He'd rather, he wants to divide you. He wants to beat up on immigrants or trans kids or, or anything that will get you to not focus in on his lousy job performance. I don't know if you saw the statement by Kevin Hassett, who was one of Trump's top economic advisors. He was asked about the war. He says if the war were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about what we'd have to do about that. But that's really the last of our concerns right now. That's what the consumers, the people of this country, are the last of our concerns. That tells you everything you want to know about this administration.
Exactly.
They don't give a damn about regular people.
They don't care.
So everything Trump, everything he does is designed to distract, to get you to look someplace else and not look at his lousy economy. And I think people are beginning to see through this act. But we have to understand. I mean, what he's doing and what his actions are deliberate. And it's all about enriching himself, enriching the Epstein class, the well-off, the well-connected, the people who have tons of money. I mean, Trump's family's making billions as a result of his presidency. Everybody else is getting screwed. So, there you have it. And again, these midterms, I think, are our last chance to be able to try to reel him in because, he's out of control.
I love that. Please continue to use that term. Out of control. I've been using that myself, Congressman, and I urge you and your colleagues to talk about this because that's where we are. I mean, that's where things are. I mean, he is talking about going into Cuba and taking over like it's, a trip to Iceland for the weekend. I mean, this is crazy. We talked about Greenland before that too.
I mean, his people are talking about making Cuba a client state. Really? I mean, so that we're going to be a domineering force, that we're going to basically treat Cubans as like, second-class citizens, like they don't matter, that they're going to, when we say jump, they're going to respond by saying how high. Is that the vision he has for Cuba? I mean, I don't think the Cuban people want that. And by the way, for the last 6 decades, this country has been engaged in what I think is a human rights crime, economically strangling the island of Cuba. And now Trump has taken it to a different level, not only economically starving them, but actually denying them basic fuel to be able to, operate their electrical grid and be able to power their hospitals. And so he's trying to bring them to their knees in order that he can take over and basically tell people there what to do, that the Cuban people who live on the island have no say. They just do whatever he wants. I mean, Trump lives in this world where he's like, an emperor or a dictator. He could, he's all that matters. It is so, not only disrespectful, so dehumanizing, just so awful. And it's going to catch up to us. But he's giving our country, this reputation that, that some of our adversaries have tried to pin on us. That somehow all we care about is, enriching the rich, and all we care about is, acquiring, countries for the sake of acquiring countries and power for the sake of power, that we don't really give a damn about people.
Let me ask you quickly, because I know you got limited time. Impeachment. I have been calling for Democrats to understand. And of course, you and Nancy Pelosi, who went on the show a few weeks ago, who organized the impeachment in the House. You couldn't do it in the Senate. But I really feel that if the Democrats win the House and Senate, they got to figure out a way to get 15 or 16 Republicans to look at it. Either you're for democracy or for dictatorship. It's one or the other. And I'm thinking that can be done. How many people in the caucus were thinking about this? I mean, I know you've got to wait until all that happens because you can't do it with Republicans and majority. But to me, that has to be part of this, because we can't allow this individual to continue to make a menace, out of this country.
Yeah, I mean, our focus needs to be on winning the midterms so we can stop this madness. I think he needs to be held accountable. He's not qualified to be president. He has disqualified himself. He's been guilty of illegal act after illegal act. I don't want him in the White House, period. But again, I mean, the focus needs to be on how we win enough.
How you win, sure.
To be able to do what
I agree
we need to
100%.
do. Right. And I want to just say this, and then I'll let you go. But, for Democrats, the important thing is not just talking about how lousy Trump is. And boy, we could spend years talking about how lousy he's been. But it's not just what you're against that matters; it's what you're for. We need to tell people what we're for. People need to understand that if we win, it'll make a difference in their lives. That we're going to reverse
Medicare for all is something you're in favor of. I am too, even if we have to get to the public option to get there, right?
Right. Well, yeah. However, we need to do it. We need to fix our healthcare system. We need to, we need to reverse the cuts to Medicaid. I mean, there's so much that we need to do, as well as bring accountability and integrity back to our government. But I'm with you. But I will just say, final thing. We got to be prepared for him to do something crazy in advance of these elections, like declaring a state of emergency or deploying our troops or ICE, at polling places. Because I wouldn't put anything past this guy, because he's so desperate to hold on to power that he will do anything. We just have to be prepared for that. And I think we've been talking about this in our caucus. So, in any event, I appreciate all that you do, and I appreciate your candor and that you're doing what you're doing, and I look forward to being on your show again soon.
Look forward to that, Congressman. Congressman Jim McGovern here on the Jeff Santos Show. We'll get more into poverty and Medicare for all the next time he's on. Appreciate it, Congressman. Appreciate you, and keep on fighting for us. Thank you so much.
All the best. All the best. Thanks.
That was Congressman Jim McGovern of the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I live here, so I guess call it great. But it is a very good state, progressive, like California. And we're very, very happy to have a relationship. The second time he's been on in the last few months, and look forward to, on a regular basis, talking with the congressman that represents Worcester. That's the second largest city in the state, next to Boston, of course, being number one. And, of course, in the central part of Massachusetts. As well. The phone number to join us, 833-545-5333. Just a couple of quick points. Want to hear from you. You can also email me, Jeff at thejeffsantoshow.com. Again, that's Jeff with a J. If you are across the country and watching us, shout out to all of you there, our friends in Wisconsin and Massachusetts and everywhere that we were on live during the day, 3 to 6 Eastern, 12 to 3 Pacific. You can check us out. We're in the Red Sox hat tonight, the red and blue hat, although it's a little crooked. Time to get a new one. You can check us out online again at thejeffsantoshow.com, courtesy of YouTube and the rest of the folks. I want to open up the phones, and again, Gio and Rob will let me know who is on the line. At 833-545-5333. We got to the top of the hour if you want to call in. Talk about what Jim McGovern did. You understand what he wants to keep the focus on, which is about winning these elections. I agree 100%. But the end game has to be that you impeach the incumbent Orange Menace president. That has to be the game. You can't let him off the hook. And, there are some Democrats that are, a little afraid. Oh, we don't want to go back there again. And, the American people, they don't want to focus on that. You don't have to focus on that exclusively. I'm not telling you to do that. There are plenty of things to do in this country to fix the mess that this guy has left it in. Healthcare, education, just how we deal with people. We don't kill people who are protesting, this ICE Gestapo. We have a lot of things to do. I'm not saying just throw everything out, but you can't really do a lot when you have the Orange Menace in the White House basically creating more problems every day. We got us into a war. He didn't even have any thought process about how we deal with Iran. What if you get rid of everybody? Well, who's going to replace them? Who's going to run the government? No thought process, because he doesn't care. That's the problem. When you don't care about anything, except making more money and put it in your pocket, your immediate family, and the billionaires that give you the money to run the campaign and eventually make side deals. That's all he cares about. It's not about a better America. It's not about, understanding the problems of people who are making $35,000, $40,000 a year. By the way, it's about the average American salary individual, about 60, 65,000, maybe 70 for a couple. That's what it is. So what we're dealing with is an individual who really doesn't care about you and me. And in order to combat that, we have to organize. And you hear this. We had an interview with Nancy Pelosi that people in San Francisco heard a couple of weeks ago. We'll replay that for our Los Angeles audience over the next couple of weeks. Again, we're on every Tuesday at 7 o'clock Pacific time, right here on KSFO, AM 810 in San Francisco, and KABC, AM 790 in Los Angeles. Covers the whole state, Mexican border, Oregon border, east of Reno. So the opportunities, we have an event coming up on March 28th, just a couple of weekends away, and another No Kings rally that Indivisible is putting together. We're going to try in our daytime and nighttime show and talking to Ezra Levin of Indivisible. He and his wife organized a lot of these, MoveOn.org, our friends at Social Security Matters, ACLU have all done a fantastic job of bringing people together. When I went to the last one in October of 25, there were people there from ages 10 to 80. And there were teachers, there were former military, ran into a couple of Marines. There were people who were doctors. There were a whole slew of different people, union guys, laborers, across the rainbow that the late Reverend Jesse Jackson would talk about, that we need to continue to build the Rainbow Coalition, African-American, Latino, Asian, white, young, old, the whole thing. I want to say this because this is somewhat breaking news. Tonight in Illinois, after trailing the Democratic congressman, Krishna T, Julia Stranton, the lieutenant governor, pulled away 39 to 33 tonight in Illinois. That's a final. And she has a chance to become, I believe, the second U.S. senator who is an African-American female. I believe it's Maryland senator is a African-American female. She joined, of course, many women, over 20, I believe, in the Senate. And we need to grow on that. But it's very good, and it's very concerning because we had heard today an interview with Don Rose, the political consultant who was a campaign advisor, campaign manager to the late, great Martin Luther King, who was, of course, assassinated in 1968, went to Chicago, and, it was not an easy march, a lot of problems in there. But Mr. Rose was just amazing, recollecting the fact, and a decent man who would listen. He kept telling me he would listen. A good listener. Well, a good leader has to listen. And obviously, Martin Luther King Jr. was just that, an incredible, great leader. Again, phone number to join is 833-545-5333. I think it's important. I think it is incredibly important for the Democratic Party to sort of lean into what was happening, in the window of time between 1933 and 1966. Again, in that window of time, with the exception of a couple of years, I think 46 to 48, the Democrats would not be in control of the House, but otherwise they were, and the Senate for the most part as well. A little bit of time, again, in the late 40s and all the way through into the 1980s. But what happened between 33 and 66 is historic, and the Democratic Party should highlight that. And they should highlight the people from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who sort of is the godfather of all of this, gave you Social Security, gave you the New Deal, gave you unemployment. His wife, after FDR passing in 45, would lead to public unions, which was only private unions for a long time, sort of the building trades types. But that changed. And now teachers' unions, we heard tonight from one of them, and our good friend from the NEA and Badass Teachers, Melissa Tomlinson. Again, she's a regular Tuesday in the 3 to 6 window, 12 to 3 Pacific time. And, that's just a little bit of FDR, because his magic continued with Harry Truman, desegregated the military after World War II. In the 1950s, even though Eisenhower would dominate that decade, and winning in 1952 and then again all the way to 1960, gave us a warning on the military-industrial complex. Cut us off at the awful time in this country with Joe McCarthy, and reminds us so much of the time we're in right now with Trump. So, and then in 1960, Kennedy and Camelot, and of course, he would establish the Peace Corps, Vista programs. People were involved as a community. We talked about that earlier. That's the other piece of this. And again, in 1964, just a few months after horrific assassination of JFK, LBJ would give you civil rights. In 65, he'd give you voting rights. And he didn't give you, it worked hard. A lot of coalition, the Civil Rights Coalition coming through. And of course, you had Medicare and you had Medicaid, which of course, next to this guy, wants to privatize Medicare, wants to destroy Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. So this is where we are. And we need to protect what we have built. And the Democrats have built this. It's not something you take lightly, and it's something you should be proud of. And that, to me, is a critical component of how we go forward. We have to make it very, very clear that the Democratic Party will win when they get close to the working class and they understand what they have done to build up the working class and the middle class. And Roosevelt through Johnson in that 33-year window from 33 to 66 was exactly where we need to go back. But we need to update it, of course. But as I've been saying on the show, if we have to rename streets called the Roosevelt Way, let's do it. Coast to coast, understanding what he did. Now, the other part of this people may not realize is that FDR went into environments not for a rich New Yorker. He spent time in the Deep South, in places like Tennessee. He understood what was important at that time. Now, he had to make some alliances, which he probably didn't like, in some of the segregated South, but he moved an agenda forward. And that led to a lot more abilities for the Democrats to reach African Americans, eventually to reach Latinos, eventually to reach the LGBTQ trans community. All of these things kind of started in 33. We got away from the whole Gatsby era, get away from greed is good. We came back again in the 80s, the Michael Douglas, Oliver Stone movie. But that is where we are, folks. And we need to keep talking about this, bring progressives and moderates together, and that's how we win. Trump wants to divide us. We want to bring people together, and we have to do it to win and beat the other side. That's important. And progressives have to be in the car. I always talk about this. Bernie Sanders has to be in the car with Gavin Newsom. If Gavin Newsom is the Democratic nominee, you cannot get away from that. You can't split the baby and expect people to come out and vote for you. You saw what happened in 24. All right, folks, I want to thank Gio and Rob, Freddie, and the gang in Boca Raton, Florida, and Tampa for a great job today in producing the broadcast. I want you to keep on fighting peacefully. 2 for Tuesdays here in California. Thank you, Cumulus, as well. San Francisco, LA, take care of yourselves. Until tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern, my name is Jeff Santos, and right now it's my time to say, I gotta go.
Israel's campaign against Iran-linked forces is widening, with new strikes reported in Lebanon and beyond.
The Israeli military said it hit targets tied to Iran-backed militants in southern Lebanon and Beirut, including an operation that killed several senior Revolutionary Guard Quds commanders. Lebanese sources reported at least 4 deaths in one hotel strike. Humanitarian agencies and UN officials are warning that the broader conflict is displacing large numbers of civilians. Gary Beck reporting.
Across the Gulf region, new missile and drone attacks linked to the Iran war are battering cities, oil hubs, and vital infrastructure.
Officials in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia reported civilian casualties and damage after fresh Iranian drone and missile strikes on residential areas and industrial sites on